Hello and welcome to the Royal Borough of Greenwich's Holocaust Memorial Day event 2021. My name is Roland Perrin. I'm a pianist and composer, and also I've had the privilege to archive memories of Holocaust survivors through my work with Jewish Care. Holocaust Memorial Day is marked each year on the 27th of January, the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest Nazi death camp. It's an opportunity for us to remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered during the Holocaust and the millions of other people who were killed under Nazi persecution, and the more recent genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, and Darfur. Atrocities that we never want to see repeated. In the year 2000, 46 governments around the world signed a statement of commitment to preserve the memory of those murdered in the Holocaust and all genocides and educate future generations. You can read the statement of commitment on the Council's website. Today's event is built around recorded testaments by survivors who, as Jewish children, were caught up in the horrors of the Second World War. Some of the children went to camps. Some were hidden in the countryside, some emigrated with and without their parents. These testaments will be accompanied by photo slideshows, I should say, and interspersed with music. What we want to remember and what we want to do is to remember and give tribute to all victims of persecution and to look forward, having drawn lessons from the past. We celebrate survival, both human and cultural. But first, let's have some words from the Mayor, the leader, and the Deputy Leader of the Royal Borough of Greenwich Council.
Today marks the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest of the Nazi death camps.
Today, we take a moment to remember the 6 million Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust.
This year, Holocaust Memorial Day focuses on finding the light in times of darkness.
The massive slaughter of 6 million human beings 75 years ago forms a dark part of our history and demonstrates the horrors brought about by intolerance between cultures and between communities.
Together, we bear witness for those who suffered in genocide around the globe and honour the survivors whose lives have been changed dramatically.
It might be hard to see the light, but by remembering these horrific events and changing how the world treats people, we can bring hope to everyone.
One of its prisoners, Marian Turski, said that right now, as the last inmates of Auschwitz are passing away, we have one commandment: to not be indifferent to the plight of others. According to Turski, this is the only way to prevent Auschwitz from happening again.
The Holocaust deliberately divided people. But if we stand together, then we can all live in a more loving and kind world.
Here in Royal Greenwich, we celebrate our differences and work towards harmony and understanding. We support diversity and speak out against all forms of discrimination.
We have a responsibility to ensure that hate crime and pure acts of evils, like the Holocaust, never happen again.
So let us be the light in the darkness against discrimination. And let us take today to stand together against hate and prejudice of all kinds.
Thank you, councillors. I will now perform an arrangement of Tumbalalaika, which is a Jewish song known to have been sung in the Warsaw Ghetto. We now have the first of 3 recorded testaments taken from my interviews with survivors of the Holocaust.
The only memory I have of my mother, they are very vague at that. My mother cooking in the kitchen and me sitting on the floor playing next to her. And for some reason, I remember the toys that I had, all Russian things that you turned with a key and they walked about there, that sort of. That's the memory I have of my mother. I'm seeing her back mostly as she's cooking, and I'm behind her small kitchen. My mother, she died the same day she arrived in Auschwitz. She was sent on the wrong side. So I was put in foster. Yes, so they found, I don't know how, everything I know is very vague because I've had nobody to explain things to me very much. But I was okay, except that, you have, even a little child, at least I did, you don't understand the situation. And you can't understand why your mommy and daddy don't want to have you with them. They probably tried to explain my mother. I know my mother taught me my name and address and my date of birth. And when she had told me that the address in Paris, I mustn't tell anybody my address. Ever, until she comes to see me again, and we will see what happens then. And she never came again.
Now, I'd like to introduce you to clarinetist Jeremy Sholem performing Rouge. Klezmer is an old but enduring Jewish popular music which manages to capture both tragedy and joy. We now have the second survivor's testament. In this, you'll hear voices of two women, both of whom were imprisoned in Auschwitz as young girls.
I remember being at a concert in Auschwitz. I can't remember the dates. As I said, my dates are not with me. I don't know what date it was. There was an orchestra. I didn't know the lady, but I imagine it was the same one she talks about. But I remember we were all sitting on the ground, of course, no seats, and listening to music.
Dressed up.
Yes, I think we were cleanly dressed, yes. You've heard of Dr. Joseph Mengele. I mean, you know, he used to march up and down Auschwitz, the street, with his twins that he experimented on, but to be a twin in Auschwitz was not a good thing. Twin girls. And Irma Kreiser, his other Nazi woman that's beside him with the two big Alsatian dogs with her. It's quite frightening.
I'm born in Prague, Czechoslovakia, 1939. I was taken to a concentration camp with my mother at the age of 3.5. I never saw my mother in the camp. People told me she must have been ill, otherwise a child of 6.5 when I left the camp should remember her mother. I was there till I was liberated in May 1945 when I came to England, and that's when I started my real happy life. Hanukkah was our first Jewish holiday. I found this holiday very difficult to cope with. I can't come down for the first light of Hanukkah ever. I try very hard, but it's not easy. You would think after 72 years, I would have partly helped just stop thinking about this, but it never happens. To this day, if I see an Alsatian dog, I cross the road. I cannot be near an Alsatian dog because they guarded the camp. And I'm an animal lover. It took 50 years for me to get a photograph of my mother. I know nothing about my father. He went on the first transport to Lodz. That I've been told, I've got it written on papers, but I know nothing about my father. I was always searching for my mother. And finally, when I received this photograph of my mother, it was Christmas Eve. I was flying to Israel. I looked at this photograph. I could not cry. I sat. I think I was shaking a little bit because I thought, this looks like me as a child. But who is this woman? Imagine a 6.5-year-old can't remember her mother. I can't remember seeing her in the camp. So when I got this photograph that I wished for all my life, it was a shock, but it was a happy moment to think, at least now I have a photo. It's in a frame in my bedroom. I see it every day. And I'm lucky that I have something.
We now have singer and guitarist Ben Steele, who's going to perform the Leonard Cohen song, Dance Me to the End of Love. Following on from the previous film, it's important to note that Leonard Cohen wrote about this song. It came from just hearing or reading or knowing that in the death camps, a string quartet was pressed into performance while this horror was going on.
Dance me to your beauty with a burning violin. Dance me through the panic till I'm gathered safely in. Lift me like an olive branch and be my homeward dove. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love. Let me see your beauty when the witnesses are gone. Let me feel you moving like they do in Babylon. Show me slowly what I only know the limits of. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love. La da, la da 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 da, la da 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 da, la da. Dance me to the wedding now and dance me on and on. Dance me very tenderly and dance me very long. We're both of us beneath our love, we're both of us above. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the children who are asking to be born. Dance me through the curtains that our kisses have outworn. Raise a tent of shelter now, though every thread is torn. Dance me to the end of love. La da, la da 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 da, la da 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 da, la da. Dance me to your beauty with a burning violin. Dance me through the panic till I'm gathered safely in. Touch me with your naked hand or touch me with your glove. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love.
Thank you, Ben. We're now going to play the third and final testament. You'll hear the memories of two people who managed to escape the horror of being captured by the Nazis, but by no means escaped the loss.
And it'll be okay. And it became ever more important to leave Germany. And through some, lucky coincidence, was sent to the British British consulate in Cologne, and they gave me a visa to travel, to immigrate. But my parents didn't get that visa. You know, they ended up in Lisbonstadt eventually, which I found out after the war. You know, the Germans were very good at keeping records and having everybody registered and whatnot. I lost my parents, I lost many relatives, uncles, cousins who just disappeared from the face of the earth by the Holocaust experience, you know, in different camps or whatever it was. I mean, in retrospect, I feel they should have just packed and go, irrespective of whether they had a visa. You know, once you got...
Yeah, but German Jews were such law-abiding citizens.
You know, they were used to the German idea of law and order. You didn't do anything that wasn't officially allowed or had permission for. If you know, Jewish people were desperate to find a place where to go to.
We were very happy in Germany before all that. My parents actually managed to get out of Germany after that. Somehow they smuggled themselves. They didn't have proper visas or papers. They smuggled themselves out of Germany. My father eventually got to Belgium as well and started from north, a little business, you know. He didn't have a working permit. It was very difficult to settle, you know. I don't know. He managed somehow. We were never hungry. We never will. But somehow my parents managed to make a living out of, don't know, not too sure what. You mustn't show that you are a Jew. That is impossible. It was an impossible life. It was impossible. I went into hiding in the provinces somewhere in a nice family who looked after me. I was very fortunate. And these people looked after me as if I was their daughter. I was there from the age of 11 till 13, and they sent me to good schools, and they dressed me and educated me. I was a very miserable kid, but they certainly looked after me. My parents managed to flee, and they arrived in Switzerland by some miracle. My sister was in another place. Anyway, we survived. But under a false name, you become what's called a hidden child. A hidden child is a child that loses its identity, becomes another child. And that was a hard time, emotionally a hard time. I had to play that part. I suddenly was someone else. It was a hard part, you know. It's difficult to describe this. It's like playing a part in the theater, but for a long time, all the time. And almost eventually believing that you are that new person. Because when I came home to my parents after the war, I didn't want to take my normal name again. I didn't want it. I was intimidated by it. I had a terrible time of this, yeah. Identity crisis. For the horrors of the Holocaust, I have no forgiveness. There's no forgiveness in that. But unfortunately, you have to push it aside and now receive the new people, because the Germans are no longer the same. They are not. Of course, there are nests of all kinds. But in general, the German people of today can be trusted, I think, as much as anybody else.
We now have a performance by Dexter Mosley, a singer uniquely steeped in jazz, soul, and cantorial sacred singing. He'll be performing the African-American classic, Motherless Child.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child alone Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. And sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. A long way from
We now have Rabbi Matti Kirschenbaum from Bromley Reform Synagogue offering a prayer.
And we say the words of the Kaddish, Jewish prayer said in memory of the dead. Kaddish does not mention death, but focuses on the future when everyone will glorify God and express their commitment to building a world free of superstition, prejudice, persecution, and discrimination. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביומי חון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יחי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתאדר ויתעלה ויתחלל. שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דיאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יחשלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל העולם, ואמרו אמן. May the maker of peace in the highest bring this peace upon us, and upon all people of Israel, and upon all humanity, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. We're going to end today's commemoration with some footage from last year's Royal Borough of Greenwich Holocaust Memorial Day event of pupils from Cherry Orchard Primary School singing Never Again, produced by Global Fusion Music and Arts. behalf of the Royal Borough of Greenwich's Holocaust Memorial Day 2021 commemoration event, thank you to all our participants today, and Warden Gerald Rose and Cantor David Rome from the Catford and Bromley United Synagogue. And of course, thanks to all of you for joining us.